So I often tell the story about the first time that Philip and I met, and it's a great introduction to our topic today because when I was right out of college, I got a job at a regional office of a broker-dealer, and I was very much my base social styles at that point in my life. But I didn't know what those were. And into my office one evening, they're studying late, and this guy shows up, comes right into my office, starts shaking my hand right from the very get-go, asking questions, wanted to know who I was, what I was about, and we're standing there shaking hands while we're having this initial conversation, and it was pretty uncomfortable for me. We were standing there shaking hands, and about 30 seconds into the conversation, I realized that we were still shaking hands and just continuing to talk. And I had done some acting exercises in college where you kind of get over some of those things. You stand really close to each other, and it's supposed to help you when you're on stage, be able to perform with other people and get over some of those natural tendencies that some people have to not like other people standing close to them. So I was a little bit more comfortable with it, but being the analytic that I am, I decided I was going to try and figure out how long he would stand there and shake my hand while we were talking. And of course, in my mind, it seems like it was 25 or 30 minutes that we stood there talking. It was probably only maybe a minute or two. But that story really is a great way to introduce the topic of social styles, which is our topic for today, because two very different social styles. Like, I was kind of taken aback. This, person up in my face, super close to me, shaking my hand, first time he'd ever met me, and asking me questions. And of course, that person turned out to be none other than my co-host on the Valuability podcast, Philip Simonson. And with that, we will start episode 9, Understanding Social Styles to Manage Yourself and Others. The Valuability podcast is for financial advisors, business owners, and anyone interested in financial planning, business, leadership, and personal development. We believe that financial success comes from building a plan on the foundation of your values, and building your ability will help you get there. My name is Danforth Fleek. I have been a financial advisor and product wholesaler for over 20 years, and each week I am joined by the aforementioned Philip Simonson. Philip has been in the financial services industry for over 40 years as a financial advisor, field leader, trainer, executive, leadership development specialist. You can find the Valuability podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn, or anywhere else where you find podcasts. We also have a YouTube channel. You can search for Value-Ability on YouTube to find us there. We also have a website, value-ability.com. You can click on the episodes tab in order to listen to our episodes. Wherever you find us, please like, review, subscribe, and share. It really does help us out. You can also sign up for our mailing list at value-ability.com. Click on the Contact Us tab, and the mailing list sign up is there. We do special content, exclusive content for our mailing list subscribers. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at value_ability, and you can also find us on Facebook. Search at Valuability, all one word. So Philip, now you have a opposite side of this story because I remember it from my perspective, but you have your own unique take on the first time we met.
Yes, it was 1996. It was a Friday. I was going to be starting work. It was Labor Day weekend coming up. And I was going to start, my first day was going to be Tuesday. But I was driving by the office. I said, well, I'll just stop in and see if anyone's there and meet people. And I've met Dan, and I said, oh, Dan described everything right, but let me my take is, here's Dan. We're a generation apart. He's X. I'm baby boomer. Came from England. I'm traditional. This dressed casual Fridays. I wasn't used to. Dan's got a t-shirt on. Dan's got the baggy pants that are just below the knees. He's got the shaved head. He's got the earring in. He's got his fingernails are painted. And I don't think I wanted to let go of that hand, Dan. Shaking it. Didn't know what to think.
It must have looked very pretty.
But I realized right away, bright guy. Very, very methodical, very concise. And so, left. Came back on Tuesday. Nate says, I've known Nate since 7 years old. Best friend for a long time. And he says, I heard you're in the office. What do you think? And you met some of the people. And I said, well, everyone's good. And I said, now this person next to you, office next to you, he said, Cy, stop. I know where you're going. And here's what all you need to know. Last time I checked, I was smarter than you. All you need to know is that man over there, Dan, he's smarter than me. And we're going to need him if we're going to take this place to where we want it to go. And by gosh, he was right. And don't judge a book by its cover is kind of the story there. And today, as Dan mentioned, we are going to be talking about social styles. And if you can learn individuals' different styles, and there's 4 predominant ones, then you're going to learn how you'll naturally become a better communicator. But I just want to kind of go through the history first. And the history is this. It started with the Navy back in the 40s and 50s. They wanted to figure out what's the best style of leadership. And what they found out, they ended up working with Ohio State, and they came up with the Ohio State model, and there wasn't one best style. But the predominant traits or actions that people observe, they came down to 4 different styles, and that's what we're going to cover today. Now, there's one thing I want to share with you. Not one of these styles makes for a better salesperson, makes for a better leader, etc. The secret to this whole thing, if you know what your style is, you're going to gain better self-awareness. By gaining better self-awareness, then you're going to have better social awareness. And that, what I mean by that is you're going to be able to extend your front porch to better meet the individual across from you that you're communicating with and making sure you give their base need. And if they get their base need met, then tension is going to go down and trust is going to go up. But before in these social styles, you're going to have a little bit of each one within you, most of you. They're ingrained by the age of 14. And boy, I tell you, Spielberg, these directors, Walt Disney, with the cartoons, they know they know the acting, as Dan mentioned, they know these social styles, and they want to hold up, when you're watching the big screen or watching the boob tube and you're watching, they're just showing a mirror of you, and you can relate to these people a lot quicker and easier. So before I begin, Dan, for people to follow along, what would be the best method here? Where could they get this document you and I are gonna talk about?
Absolutely. Any of the documents that we use during the podcasts are available in a number of places. You can find it on our website, value-ability.com. Click on the content tab, and all of the documents that we talk about on the podcast are there, sorted by episode. You can also find it on Instagram. Search at value_ability on Instagram. We post all of our visuals on Instagram. We'll also put a link to it on our Facebook page. You can search at valuability, all one word, on Facebook to find that. And if you want to connect with us, use our Twitter account at value_ability on Twitter as well.
Excellent. Now, as we go through this, I want you to think about which style might cause you the most problems. Conversely, I want you to think about which style you could work easily with. Now, to determine styles, there's we're looking at two behaviors or characteristics that I want to reference here. And you can either visualize it or you can follow along on the tool that Dan just mentioned. But on the vertical axis, if you'll draw that down on a piece of paper or just visualize it, at the top of that vertical axis or line, write responsiveness across. And responsiveness, this is high responsiveness. People with high responsiveness, they emote their feelings very, very easily. And they're very warm. Now, people who are low in responsiveness, down on the opposite end of that vertical line, these are people who are more cool, calm, and collective. Dirty Harry can exemplify this. Make my day. Not a lot of emotions. Now, at the midpoint of that vertical axis, I want you to just draw a line going across. So you're going to end up with 4 quadrants here. And on that, on the left-hand side, write low. Over on the right-hand side, write high. And then write assertiveness. Someone who is low in assertiveness, these people ask. Someone who on the right-hand side are high in assertiveness, these are tellers. And as we go through this, we're going to exemplify, the people, the style at its extreme. There's versatility in here as well. That's for more of a detailed coaching session. But we're going to make our points, we're going to use the extreme styles here. So
I just want to reiterate the point that you made as well, because it's so important that there is no one better style than another, and not just in general, but even for multiple tasks, right? For a leader or a salesperson or an engineer, or social style is just a way to understand how you interact behaviorally with people. It doesn't mean that, people instinctively might think, oh, well, sales, that's all about being aggressive and outgoing. And so the driver, they're going to naturally be better at sales than one of the other social styles. And that's really not the case. Any of the social styles can successfully do any job. Now, might say that social styles are drawn to certain things because it is more natural, but it doesn't make them necessarily any better. Example that always pops to my mind is I was meeting a financial advisor for the first time and went into her office. She was new, less than a year in the business, and the first thing she told me was that she had gotten a 1 out of 5 on the sales aptitude test when they had tested her during the hiring process. And it kind of confused me until later on she told me that she was out to prove them wrong. And so, high, analytic driver was gonna, bust through and teach them that they were wrong. And she did end up becoming successful. She's still in the business and has a good practice. So, those aptitude tests don't always tell the whole truth, and your social style doesn't either. So I just wanted to reiterate that point.
Yes, and that comes back to, again, self-awareness, then the social awareness. So the key, as you mentioned, Dan, is to learn how to extend your front porch. And you'll learn how to extend your front porch by, again, learning how to learning what your predominant style is, and then being able to read the person's predominant style across from you. And if you can do that, then you're going to be more effective communicator. And effectiveness, what we're going to define as here is tension will go down and trust will go up. And we'll explain more on that later. Going back then, if you have the document out in front of you, or if you can continue to visualize it, the upper left-hand corner, someone who's high in responsiveness, low in assertiveness, we're going to call this style the amiables. Someone over on the right-hand upper quadrant, high in responsiveness, high in assertiveness, this is the expressive. Someone who is high in assertiveness, low in responsiveness, this person we're going to call the driver. Lower left-hand quadrant, low in assertiveness, low in responsiveness, this person we're going to call the style analytical. Now again, there's 3 actions that we're going to take a look at and explain to you. It's going to be relationship, decision-making, and use of time. Now, the amiable, these people are high in responsiveness, and again, they're low in assertiveness. For this person, for tension to go down and trust to go up, you must meet their base need, as I was referencing earlier. The base need of the amiable is personal security, which is really safety. And it's, to be loved, to be liked, but personal security. These individuals as well, they are more, again, their orientation is more relationship orientation. Now, let's take relationship. So Dan, someone high in responsiveness, low in assertiveness. Relationship, would you say the amiable, are they going to be warm or are they going to be cool?
Definitely warm. They'll
Absolutely.
be consensus builders.
Yes.
Right? I gotta know everybody's where everybody's at emotionally. We're all on the same page and we're all headed in the same direction.
Beautiful. Very spot on, as the old Brits would say. Yeah, these people are, again, to a social setting, they lend joy, they lend warmth, they lend freshness. They love the old folklore, they love family traditions, etc. Now, someone over here in the expressive style, we call high in responsiveness, high in assertiveness. Let me go back. I jumped there. You got warm. Are they going to be competitive, the amiable, Dan, or are they going to be cooperative?
As in my previous answer, also cooperative, right?
Yeah.
Getting everybody together.
Thank you. You did say that.
Making
All right.
sure everyone's there. Yeah. No, didn't say it specifically, but yeah.
Yep. Here you go then. So let's take that. All right. The expressive, high responsiveness, high assertiveness. This individual, relationship, cool or warm?
Definitely still warm.
Yes. Competitive or cooperative?
They're going to be on the competitive side, right? This is the person that wants the praise, wants the adulation. They're the one that will get everybody up on stage, but then stand in front of everyone else.
You've got it. Their base need is recognition. They are the peacocks. They generally are very creative individuals. They're always chasing the dream, the vision. It's hard for these individuals to stay focused in the present. Now, the driver, low in responsiveness, high in assertiveness, cool in regard to relationship, cool or warm will they be in regard to working with other people?
They're going to be on the cool side.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely more independent, uncommunicative. They aren't going to moat their feelings. Are they going to be competitive or are they going to be cooperative?
Definitely on the competitive side.
Yes. Their base need, tension to go down, trust go up. They want control. And they love control. I like to say with these people, it's kind of one God, one race, one religion, and it's theirs. Now over here, low assertiveness, low responsiveness. We're calling this group or this social style analytic. Relationship, Dan, warm or cool?
They're going to be on the cool side.
Yep. Cooperative or competitive?
But they will be cooperative.
Yes. And their base need is going to be right. They've got to, as long as they feel that they're right, they are, again, they like common sense. They like logic. They like facts. And if they have that, then their base need, trust is going to be going up and tension will be going down.
Right. Conversely to the amiable who wants everyone to be on the same page emotionally,
right.
The analytic wants everybody to be on the same page intellectually, right? They're going to go to everyone to gather information. They're not too interested in how you're feeling. They want to know what you know to gather that information.
Absolutely. And so in regard to, let's take that amiable now. Next action, there's 3. This one's going to be in regard to decision making. Is this someone who's amiable, again, high responsiveness, low in assertiveness? Will they make their decisions quickly or slowly?
Up until now, I've remembered all of the answers. I think they're gonna. This one I'm not sure of, but I think it's gonna be slowly.
Correct. It is slow. Again, because they're that base need of personal security. They will take their time. Doesn't mean they won't make the decision, but they. You've got to give them, again, let them know. You got to connect how their decision is going to help them meet their base need, and particularly, if it's help their family, help them continue to feel loved and secure, then they're going to feel good about it. And there's the next one. Are they going to, their decisions, is it going to be based on facts or feelings?
No, definitely feelings.
Yeah, definitely feelings. You got it. Over here with the expressive now, decision making. They're going to make their decisions. This is high in assertiveness, high in responsiveness. Quickly or slowly?
I'm going to say quickly.
You got it. They are going to be fast. And are they going to be making it based on feelings, or are they going to be making it based upon facts?
I'm going to say it's still feelings for this side.
Dan, absolutely right. These people, it's, their orientation is based upon intuition. It feels good. Let's rock and roll. Let's move. Come on. You got it. Driver. Feelings or facts?
Definitely facts.
Yes. Will they be slow or fast?
They're going to be fast. Let's make a decision and go do it.
Well said. And it's going to be, give me the data. And if you happen to be, trying to influence this person to make a decision, you want to generally give it to them on one page and give them options and let them choose. Because again, why are the options? So they feel like they have their base need being met. Control. Over here with the technical, Dan, or analytic. Slow or fast when making decisions?
Ooh, slow. Gotta have all the info.
And it better be systematic.
Right. And on 55 pages.
Yeah. And is it facts or feelings?
Definitely facts.
Yeah, definitely facts. So, yeah, there's got to be systematic, got to be accurate, better have some good common sense. You've got it right. Now, let's talk about with risk. Will the amiable take risks, Dan, or will they avoid risks?
Is that another one that I don't specifically remember, but I'm gonna say they're gonna avoid risk.
Yeah, they're going to avoid risk. Now, it doesn't mean they won't, it's going to inhibit them from making a decision. But if there's risks involved, they're going to want guarantees on how how you're going to minimize the risk and give them assurance and assure that they're going to receive the benefits if they do take this risk. Now, if you don't do that, boy, you've lost them. You've lost them. If you overpromised here, and they don't have those insurances, they're out of there. So very good. Now, how about with the expressive? Are they going to take risks or will they avoid risks?
I'm gonna say that they're gonna take risks.
Oh,
They'll, like you said, intuition. They want to go for it, and they'll figure out how it works on the back end.
yeah, yeah. And they might have some gaps, and they might leave some things unfinished. All the I's and T's aren't, going to be dotted or crossed because they're moving. They don't like, take the time for the processes. But if it puts the decision, helps them be that spiritual leader or be the peacock, etc. They're doing it. They're doing it. It gives the spotlights on them. Rock and roll. How about now the driver? Take risks or avoid?
Definitely take risks.
Yeah, definitely.
Not even pay attention to the risks, right?
True.
Probably.
Very true. They'll do their quick little assessment, but no, they're moving. Let's get this thing. Keep. It's going to be swift. That decision, and just give them two or three options. How about that analytical? Avoid or take them?
These are the people that are figuring out the likelihood of getting in a car accident on their way to work and figuring out which route has fewer stop signs to reduce their risk.
Yes, they will be they will avoid risk, but they will take them as long as they're reasonable and they're valued and they can be also validated. The risks that they're taking in the present moment can also be validated in the future. Then they're going to take that risk. Now, the amiable use of time, are they going to be disciplined or undisciplined?
I'm going to say undisciplined, right? Because they're going to focus more on, again, that feelings and understanding, and it's not going to be as important how long that takes. It's
Correct.
just going to be more important to have that consensus and feeling.
Because their orientation is relationship based.
Right.
How about, and now our expressive, who's intuition based, how about with time with them? Are they going to be disciplined or undisciplined?
I'm going to say also undisciplined.
Yes.
Right? As again, that's not the factor, that's not the overriding factor. It's the more that emotional side of things and the intuitive side of things.
Yes, very good. Now the driver, disciplined or undisciplined. These are people, again, their orientation is towards action.
Right. I'm gonna say it's definitely disciplined, but
Yes.
again, it's almost as a byproduct of just the fact that they're so focused on that action, right? It's there are the options. Boom, let's go.
Let's go.
Yep.
And you might be dealing with the driver. They say, "Hello, Dan. Nice to meet you. I want you to sit right here." They go sit down in their chair and say, "All right, let's begin. I've got Dan." Even before we begin, look, I don't want idle chit chat. I've got 15 minutes, and here's what we got to get accomplished in that time. So let's go.
Right.
You're probably dealing with the driver, telling right away, not worrying about the relationship because it's all about me. Now again, we're exempt. We're going 100. We're dealing with the ultimate driver. There's different. On the continuum, there'll be different. Lighter tendencies, a light driver tendency, a moderate driver tendency, etc. To an average, to an extreme. We're dealing with the extremes here to make our point. How about over here with the analytic, Dan? What do you think in regard to use of time? Disciplined or on?
I'm going to say disciplined as well.
Very diligent. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as long as they have the freedom, you just want to give them the freedom to organize and own their own efforts. And then they're good. Particularly if you're working with them in a team process. You got some time, go away, put it together and come back. You own it and they'll be good. Now, what we have here and what we've just shared with you, and as we're going through it, I wanted you to think about which style you might, cause you the most problems, and then also which style you're going to gravitate easily to. And what we find, birds of a feather flock together, usually. But one of the things we want to make sure in this whole exercise of sharing this with you is that, again, you want to extend your front porch. So if you're an expressive, and if you're, let's take a sales position, and you come back to the office, well, no one can sell those analytics. You know them. They've got to have all the facts. They got to take their time. They got to be correct on everything. Man, and they just avoid it, avoid risks. They've missed that. Expressive has missed the whole point. They did not learn how to adjust their front porch to meet the analytic where they are. And so, if there's these 4 predominant styles, they just missed out on a quarter of the population. Probably not a good decision. So, the analytic and the expressive, they're at polar opposites of the a 180-degree continuum, just like the amiable and driver are. So the $64,000 question here is, how do you use this information? Well, if you want to, selfish plug, if you want to learn, what your style is, and again, you're going to have, like, if you're an amiable, that's your predominant style, but you're going to have some expressive. You will have some driver probably. You're going to have some analytical tendencies. Now, there are some who are, higher than 50% amiable or 50% expressive, only share a slighter amount of the other tendencies. But we have a test. We can have you go through that test. And then what we do is we provide coaching and then how to learn how to read other people's styles. And then how in your recommendation strategies come up with the right verbiage, etc., so that you can end up mirroring, modeling, and matching that person. But you don't, in anything we're teaching here, you don't want to be a chameleon where you can turn it on and off real quickly and come across insincere. Then you got to still be authentic, and you got to just use this information to your advantage, but also be acting with integrity throughout the whole process. Dan, any thoughts?
Absolutely. Couple of stories popped to mind while you were going through this. The first was very recently had a video conference call with an old friend, actually someone that we worked together with back in the 90s, and super expressive, super amiable, and my base needs of being an analytic driver. When we started off the conversation, I kind of rattled off a couple of things that had been frustrating me, and not even thinking about her base needs. And like literally I got done, and with my inward focus and my detail focus. I wasn't even processing it emotionally. And I finally got done, and I looked up, and the look on her face was literally shock. And like I had just screamed at her. And that's the first thing she said. She was like, "Oh," she's like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, you just like totally unloaded all this anger and frustration on me, and I can't process that. Like, so like I totally just tromped all over her social style without even recognizing it, which is, one of the limitations of my base social style is that it's not super connected emotionally. Now, I don't like doing that, so of course immediately I tried to ameliorate and make up for that mistake. But it just kind of popped into my mind of a moment where social style became so evident to me, even though I've worked at trying to better myself. I don't even say better myself, but become more connected to the other social styles. At your core, you're still that, like you said, at age 14, it's hardwired into you. And so you can do things intellectually to understand them, but there are times where you're just gonna revert to that base social style, and you need to be aware of that. The other story that popped into my mind is back in the 90s when you originally taught this to me. I ended up sharing it with my best friend, who is also amiable, expressive, and he came back not even a day or two later and just told me a story that he had been in his lunchroom having lunch with his coworkers, and he was feeling kind of down, and his boss came in and praised him in front of his coworkers, which is something that his boss didn't do a lot of. And he said, I just realized as soon as he said that, my entire emotion changed. He's like, I had been negative and I wasn't happy there, and I was unhappy about being there and all of the troubles we were having at the company at the time. And then my boss said this in front of my coworkers, and he said, and nothing else mattered. It's like, he said, the first thing I thought of was that you had just taught me this. And he's like, I wouldn't ever have noticed it even or understood why that changed unless you had explained that to me for my need to be, praised in front of others.
Oh,
and
it's
so
huge for that expressive.
There's a couple of examples of how powerful this can be in, day-to-day interactions. As a leader, knowing that, hey, this person is an expressive, just that little praise in front of a group can really go a long way.
Oh, for that expressive, as you just said, Dan, the other thing I would just share, little tidbits and how you can use this is, of course, give them that recognition, stroke them, that peacock, and particularly in front of a group setting, boy, you win them over. The expressive like special incentives. If you can tie special incentives to accomplishing something, they go after it. Now, there's some other things that you might see here that we're not talking about if you pull down the screen, and I'm just going to cover them real quickly, but it's part of the added coaching. And their growth action. That's, the amiable's growth action. Their need is to be safe, and they put so much, and they don't want to hurt personal security. They don't want to hurt people's feelings because, again, remember, they're relationship oriented. So they just need to learn how to initiate. And their backup style, if they don't get their base need met and they start going into their backup style, this is when things start shutting down. They're just going to acquiesce. They're going to give up and just give in. Because they don't want to, again, personal security hurt your feelings, so they just acquiesce. You start seeing that, you got to start giving them back their base need. the growth action, that expressive, they're such the peacock, so competitive, so spontaneous, so creative. They got to slow down and they got to check their work because they don't dot the I's and cross the T's. But boy, if you're not giving them that recognition, they're going to attack. And a prime example of, if any of you are old enough, is Johnny Carson when he's, literally said, "I am the peacock," and he went after Fred Silverman. That is a classic Z pattern, and that's more later when more in-depth learning on this. But the driver, growth action again. There's so, like Dan said, his example with the former coworker. If you go to your driver tendency, it's just all about action. And because that's their orientation, they don't think about the relationship. I remember my boss, who was a driver, and he was put more broker dealers out of business in the history of the SEC. My first rating from him, and we have to do our self-rating. It's my annual review. He says, "Okay, Philip, I agree with you. I give you a 1 out of 5. 1 is good, not bad." He said, "Here's what I like about you. You set up your KPIs, you do your backwards planning, and you actually get results, and you can demonstrate it. Now, you probably want me to talk more about you and find out more about you and learn about your family. That's not me. As a matter of fact, this annual review is completed. It's done." And that was when I was a car driving in Atlanta. He's out in L.A. It's just who he is. That's what I come to realize. So I better be on point. And this is where Dan, this is another tip to you is to become consciously competent on this stuff. Before you go into the meeting, think about the person you're going to be meeting. What is their social style? What is their base need? What is their, are they slow paced with their voice and actions? Are they fast paced? Where are my adjustments here? Then over here with the analytic, again, their need is to be correct. But they're the type here, if their growth action is to initiate and declare, because they have the right answers, but you got to draw them out. Otherwise, they're going to screw it. They're going to take their ball and go home. You idiots. You don't understand the rules. It's not even worth me communicating to you. But no, their growth action is to initiate and declare. And their backup style is, again, to avoid and withdraw. I'll just take the ball and go home. So those are the other points I just wanted to make, Dan, and I think it's time to go to the article, isn't it?
Absolutely. So to just wrap up this section, again, if you're interested in further coaching on this, reach out to us on our website, value-ability.com. Go to the Contact Us tab and send us a message, and we will get in touch with you and set up some additional coaching on these communication styles. Moving on to our article for the week, The Calm Voice, 15 Things You Can Do Now as a Sales Leader. Not going to, again, we've gone through a couple of articles that have these multiple points. I'm not going to go through each of them, but I do want to just focus in on a couple of points. Now, the first thing that I found super interesting, and I've run into this a number of times during this current crisis. So it starts out, if you're over the age of 30, you have lived through 9/11, the financial crisis, Ebola, SARS, MERS, the Great Recession, and many other events. Absolutely true. That time period is essentially my career in financial services, but just to give it a little bit of historical perspective, if you were born in 1900, by the time you were 40, you lived through World War I, the Spanish influenza, the Great Depression, and the start of World War II. And everything needs to be put in perspective, right? There's crises, and then there are crises. I listen to English sports talk radio quite a bit, and because I like following sports. When I grew up in England, followed cricket, follow soccer, and as one of the announcers said, my dad went to Italy to fight the Germans, you're being asked to stay home and watch Netflix. Not exactly the same type of crisis. But so I just wanted to point that out.
Wow.
Look, it doesn't minimize. Look, these are big worldwide events and they are crises, but also gives just a little bit of perspective of exactly what kind of crises we are involved with during our lifetime. To me, a couple of things that you pointed out that I definitely wanted to focus in on. Don't allow others to see you as being concerned. Be positive. Be a positive voice in a generally negative world. Help those around see the full picture and that this too shall pass. I agree with all of those points. The one thing that I would add to that, though, is that's all absolutely true, but also be truthful. As we mentioned in the video that we did a couple of episodes ago with the CEO of Southwest Airlines, he was those things. He was reassuring, he was positive, but he didn't, as I said, blow sunshine. Like, there's a line there where it becomes overblown, and yes, you want to be positive, but being unrealistically positive then starts to come off as fake, right? And so as a sales leader, you do want to inspire that confidence, but it needs to be genuine and not too overblown. The other point that I loved was the last one. We are currently dealing with two issues, health and economic. Yes, both are entwined, but one will not physically harm anyone. For me, this absolutely resonated. Actually, when I was a kid, I wrecked my dad's car, and I'll never forget his comment on it, which was, "You heal, the car doesn't." Which, because I had told him, well, at least I didn't get hurt, right? As the kid, I was searching for a way to get out of the emotional responsibility, and it was, you heal, the car doesn't. And that has always colored the way I respond to people, because that was like really hurt me. And I totally 100% agree with this. Any monetary, economic, all of those things, those will rebound. They are not human. They do not get hurt. We use those words, damage and that kind of thing, referring to the economy, but in the end, health is the number one thing to focus on. Those were the big ones that hopped out at me.
Yes, I'm going to piggyback on. I'll try not to agree with every one of those that you just stated, and I'll try to pick a couple different ones. Number one and number two there. And often the greatest sales opportunities arise when customers are in need the most. I'm just going to reference, if you haven't listened to The Chosen Frozen, episode 1, shameless plug, go back to it. The point here is the Merrill Lynch study after 9/11, how many advisors contacted their clients within 2 weeks? 1 in 5 did. So 80% did not. Asked when they would, if they're going to invest in the next year, 78% said they were going to. Then asked how many are you going to invest with the advisor who never called you? Only 1%. There's your opportunity. There's probably a lot of people. I don't think things have probably changed. A lot of opportunity to pick up new clients. I like number 2 there too. Right now, customers reward those vendors who stick with them in tough times. Your customers right now, they're going through a lot of change probably in how they're doing business. If you can help them come up with solutions, be there for them. This is that strongest source of power. It's called reverent loyalty. And you're there you demonstrate that you're there for your people when they need you most. And if you do that, they will stay with you when you hit hard times. So, be reaching out to those people and help them come up with solutions. Be part of that, part of the solution and not part of the problem, as they say. And lastly, I am going to, this whole thing right now, people, they end up mirroring their leaders. And this goes back to the emotional competence, your EQI. You need to become self-aware. And if you're more self-aware, you know what those emotional triggers are out there that trigger, your emotions. And those emotional triggers that come from the external world. And you can be sure of this, those who love you know exactly which ones to push too, by the way. But if you can learn how to manage your emotions, then you're going to be able to manage yourself better. And if you can manage yourself better, then then and only then will you be able to lead others effectively. Because they're not going to follow someone who's not emotionally secure. So, who are you going to show up as on any given moment or day? Make sure you're showing up as the person you want to be and want to be seen as.
Yeah, and just to wrap up, I noticed another one that I think is worth focusing in on. Be incredibly sensitive to others. We must listen better than we've listened before, specifically as it relates to our topic today. If you're an analytic, if you're a driver like I am, that's probably one of the things that in that story I told you about the amiable, expressive friend that I just tromped all over. I probably wasn't activating or paying attention to the stress that she was already under in the current crisis, and just tromped right across that without even thinking. So especially if you're on that low relationship side, be conscious of everyone's feelings and emotions, because we're all under a tremendous amount of stress to begin with, just a base amount of stress with worrying about your family, worrying about your mom, worrying about your dog, worrying about your job, worrying about your rental property, whatever it is, your business. All those things are gonna be a baseline. And so if you're not super high on relationship, it's a good idea to start with, hey, how are you doing? If you don't know what that other person's social style is. If they're low in relationship, they'll probably just move on. But if they're high in relationship, just as Philip mentioned, extend that front porch.
Dan, I want to give one little sales idea or tidbit, a best practice, because you just, I'm glad and grateful you said what you said there. Right now, everyone is under a lot of stress. Great question you can ask. Touch the heart before the brain. Anytime you're talking to someone new, if you're setting up me, what one or two outcomes do you want from this meeting, so that at the end of this meeting you can say this has been time well spent? Because if you're good at what you do, you can always back into it. You can adjust the pace, etc. It'll put you at ease. Plus, it says, hey, you know what? You're the most important person here. I care about you. I want to know what you want as outcomes. Then you can make the adjustments.
Just to piggyback off of that, I had a conversation with a friend and former colleague yesterday, and in that discussion he was talking about a sales coach that had called him, and he said the first thing he said to him was, John, I'm sure you want to work with advisors that do more business than the advisors that you're working with today. And John said, no, actually, I like the advisors that I have as clients. Oh, okay. Well, then I'm sure you want to close bigger cases with those advisors. And John said, well, no, I actually just want to go deeper with the clients I already have and do more of the same kind of cases. He said those two questions just totally turned him off, because, like he said, they're all about the asker telling the interviewee and not starting the conversation that way, right? And
Right.
hey, what are you looking to do? And then trying to add that to that. So it just popped into my mind there. And, with that, we actually ran a little bit long in our main section today. So I think we are going to save our question for a future episode. It's something that I don't want to skimp on from a time standpoint. So we're going to skip that question and wrap up for this week. If you have topics or questions for us, reach out to us on our Twitter account. That's the best way to get in touch with us, at value_ability. You can also reach us on our website, value-ability.com. Click on the Contact Us tab, and there's a form there where you can submit topics or questions. Or you can post on our Facebook page, at valuability, all one word. Search for that on Facebook. Please sign up for our mailing list. We create exclusive content for our mailing list subscribers. Again, you can find that at value-ability.com on the Contact Us tab. It is right above the contact form. Wherever you find us, please like, review, subscribe, and share. Refer us on to clients, business owners, people who are interested in financial planning. We try to build this for all kinds of people, but financial advisors as well, of course. Next episode, we are going to continue on our personal development theme and talk about the model week. Am I spending or investing my time? And talk a little bit about how to construct a model week and the importance of doing that and how that works. Reach out to us on one of our social platforms or on our website and let us know, what social style do you think you are and why? And, fill us in on why you think you are that social style. And then, as Philip mentioned, what social styles do you work best with and why? So reach out to us and let us know that, and we will share that with people in a future episode. As always, thank you for listening. Philip, it's always a pleasure, and look forward to doing it again next week. And remember that financial success comes from building a plan on the foundation of your values, and building your ability will help you get there. This is a podcast collaboration, not a peer-reviewed journal or a sponsored publication. We make no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information in this podcast, and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information, or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis. It is the listener's responsibility to verify their own facts. You should be aware of the real risk of loss in following any strategy or investment discussed on this podcast. Strategies or investments discussed may fluctuate in price or value. Investors may get back less than invested. Investments or strategies mentioned on this podcast may not be suitable for you. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You must make an independent decision regarding investments or strategies mentioned on this podcast. Before acting on information on this podcast, you should consider whether it is suitable for your particular circumstances and strongly consider seeking advice from your own financial or investment advisor. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, employer, or company. Assumptions are not reflective of the position of any entity other than the authors, and since we are critically thinking human beings, these views are always subject to change, revision, and rethinking at any time. Please do not hold us to them in perpetuity.